What's going on, everyone? Jack here from Half Chrome, and this is the CFly Faith Mini 2. And I've flown the CFly Faith Mini 1, as well as a handful of other similar mini drones. And I want to talk about this one and talk about how it kind of falls into this mini drone lineup. Now, this Mini 2 from CFly right now is $239. Now, that's a deal from Banggood, and that is the best drone that you can get for less than $250. But is it the drone that you want? I want to talk about this drone and how it compares to some of these other mini drones. Now, when I say mini drone, what does that mean? Well, in this case, a mini drone is a drone that weighs less than 250 grams. And 250 grams is an important number because it does two things for you. One, it allows you to not have to register with the FAA. So whatever, that's $5. And the second thing is you don't have to have remote ID. That's basically like a digital license plate. And that kind of lets anyone in the area see what you're flying and where you're at. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the CFly Faith Mini 2, how it compares to these drones here, and hopefully help you figure out which is the best mini drone for you. Okay, so I think it's important to start by talking about what is new with the Mini 2 and how is it different than the Mini 1. I really like both of these drones. Now, they're not the best drones out there, but they are the best drones that you can get at each of their price points. The Mini 1 right now from Banggood is on special for like $165. That's a steal. Usually it's about $190. And I still think the Mini 1 here is the best drone you can get for less than $200. And this guy, the CFly Faith Mini 2, is $230. Usually it's about $245. Yeah, this is the best drone that you can get for less than $250. What separates these two drones? Well, the Mini 2 here has an upgraded camera, and I think that's maybe the biggest spec. The Mini 1 here, now it did shoot 4K at 15 frames a second or 2.7 at 25, and when you don't have at least 30 frames a second, it tends to be a little bit choppy. Wasn't terrible at 2.7K, but this one here will do 4K at 30 frames a second, 2.7K at 30 frames a second, and you can even do 1080p at 60 frames a second. Plus the bitrate moves from 25 to 50, so you're gonna get a better image. The second improvement here is range. Now the Mini 1 had a range of 3,000 meters. That's like 1.9 miles. The Mini 2 here, 5,000 meters. That's over 3 miles range. Now, no, you can't really fly that far, or you shouldn't fly that far. You need to keep these things in visual line of sight. And I think that's really important, especially with a drone this size. Third improvement here with the Mini 2 is flight time. We went from 26 minutes to 32 minutes of flight time. Now again, range and flight time, those are things that are generally overstated because they're under perfect conditions. You know, you're probably not going to get 30 minutes flying with this unless you're flying no wind on a perfect day at a slow, consistent movement. So you can probably get in the upper 20s with this in most situations. The Mini 2 here is actually a tiny bit heavier. That's because it has a larger battery. That's what gives it the longer flight time. So it is 249 grams, whereas this one is just over 230 grams. So you're not going to be adding accessories to this unless you really don't care about being over 250 grams. So I've already given you some of the major specs on this thing. So let's talk about a few other things. It does have a handful of intelligent flight modes. You have your classic rocket, droney, orbit, helix, and there are a couple of follow me modes. There is a visual follow me where you draw a picture or on a box on the screen and it follows that, or you can have this follow the remote. Now in both cases, and I tested both a couple of different times, I found the following the remote to be a little bit better. It moves a little bit faster. It just seems to do a better job of tracking the remote than the visual tracking on this thing. Now it does it, but it moves slow. And the other big issue with that is the only thing that you can control with this drone while you're tracking is the gimbal. So while I was having it follow me, I noticed a tree and I wanted to move the drone up to avoid the tree, but I had to actually take it out of the follow me mode in order to avoid the tree. Then I could move the drone. So I just kind of put the drone nice and high when it was following, and that's probably what you're gonna have to do because you can't control the drone when it's in either of those modes. Dronies and rockets work just well enough, but I found the circle and the helix to not be so great. It just kind of randomly decides how it's going to do the orbit, and kind of that yaw motion is a little bit choppy. So your best bet if you're going to orbit things, you're gonna wanna do it manually. Now the camera on this is pretty good. This 3-axis gimbal does a nice job of stabilizing footage, but I did find a tiny bit of horizon tilt, meaning the horizon in the back isn't perfectly level. That's pretty common. I've seen that in the Potensic, I've seen that in the FPV, I've seen that in a lot of different mini drones. And yeah, I've pretty much flown all of the mini drones out there, and I'll do another comparison where I kind of take a look at this and how it compares to the FPV and the Potensic, because they're similarly priced drones. Maybe I'll throw the Mini 2 SE in there, but I'm gonna wait for a nice pretty day when the snow is on the ground and it's good and bright, so it's probably about a month away. I've had this thing for about 2 weeks, and pretty much the entire 2 weeks it's been gloomy and foggy and raining and cloudy, so you'll notice my pictures and videos aren't the greatest in terms of background, but that's kind of what I have to deal with right now. I'll take this thing out again on, like I said, a nice sunny, bright, snowy day and do a real good deep comparison with some of the other mini drones. So you definitely want to check out those videos as well. Another thing you want to know is it does come with this carrying case. This is different than the one that came with the original CFly FPV Mini. The drone folds up nice and compactly, and it sits in the case here pretty darn well. Look at that. You got a place for a couple of extra batteries. Now I did try this with the original CFly FPV Mini battery, and it fits, it turned on, but then it said not the right battery. So make sure you get the Mini 2 batteries for this drone. The remote here is basically the same as the original. Kind of folds down here, and that's where your phone will go. Kind of holds it into place here. We got your 2 antennas, your buttons to take pictures and videos, gimbal wheel. They are removable gimbals, which, you know, they're just kind of laying in the bottom of my case here, because if I put them on, well, I'm not going to put them on because when I fold the remote up, it doesn't fit because that cutout there wasn't made for those gimbals. Kind of short-sighted. I would have liked to have had that, but this is an upgraded case over the last CFly FPV Mini case, which looks something like this, and the drone kind of sits in there. But it is nice to get this case, and I would recommend the 2 battery package, because if you're flying and you run out of battery, it ends all the fun. Okay, so let's talk about, is this the drone for you? And if your budget is $250, you're not going to find a better drone. You just aren't. Not for $250. The camera is pretty good. Not great. The gimbal does a nice job. Not perfect. The modes are okay. Not perfect again, but this is a good mini drone. Good for a beginner, good for something if you're just learning how to fly and you don't want to break the bank. I found it to be a little bit floaty, right? It doesn't just kind of snap and stop in place like some of the more refined, like DJI drones do. So that was a little bit obnoxious. I like my drones to be super responsive and kind of stop when I tell them to stop. I kind of had to give it some leeway and kind of know that while you're flying. Overall, I think this drone is priced exactly how it should be. It is the best drone you can get for less than $250. Whereas the CFly FPV Mini 1, yeah, that's the best drone you can get for less than 200 bucks. But if you can stretch your budget just to $300, I think the FPV is a better drone. It is more expensive, for sure. I think even the Potensic tends to be a little bit better, but again, that's like 300 bucks. As you kind of go up in price to the Mini 2 SE, that's like $340. The quality gets a little bit better. And then the Mini 3 and Mini 4 series of drones, those drones are like $600, $700, close to $900 in some packages. Way better, way different class. So you got to kind of think about what is the drone for you, what is your price range, what is your budget, and this is an excellent budget beginner drone. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. If it was, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. You're not going to want to miss the comparisons on these drones and really any of the other videos that we're making. If you're thinking about getting your Part 107, we've got a handful of videos for you. And if you're a Patreon, you get a handful of additional videos as well. I got a few other videos you should watch, so make sure you check those out. Good luck, everyone, and happy flying.